ladies and gentlemen. Trade war, what is it good for? Not my retirement or portfolio, that's for sure. A very, very warm welcome to you. Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us for the first time. Great to have you here. Excited to kick off the final day, Finished Vehicle Logistics North America 2025, and have such a good-looking audience with us today. Great to have you here. So my name, if you haven't met me already or don't know who I am, Richard Logan, Senior Content Producer. I'll be your host this morning before handing over to my esteemed colleagues. But it's my pleasure to kick us off and get us started this morning. Just a quick look ahead at what's in store today. We've got a really dynamic and interesting couple of panels, a number of panels planned, focusing on quality first thing. Then we're going to take a step into electrification, looking not only at passenger vehicles, but also into the high and heavy, before we're looking at how vehicle logistics is reimagined, which currently is being reimagined about every 5 minutes or so if you're checking your phone. To that point, I should say we will be making use of our app, so some of the content that we had yesterday will be available on there, the presentations, and that you'll see today too. So please scan away, you can use it to connect, follow the agenda, and like I say, source that material as well. If you need to connect with the Wi-Fi, there are the details. So network is Hilton Meetings, password very secret, FVL A25. And as well, if you haven't done so already, please do take the opportunity to go and connect with our esteemed partners spread throughout the exhibition halls with your chance to walk away with a Finished Vehicle Logistics Teddy if you collect all the stamps. So please do that. They're willing to talk to you. They want to talk to you. They have solutions for you and want to make connections. As well, our photographer has been snapping away and filtering as well to make you all look even more beautiful. So you can access those photos. It is through an AI tool technology, and there is a beauty filter on it. So please do go check them out, put up online, and have your way with it. But that is a little bit of the admin out the way. We're living in dynamic times, and everything that was talked about yesterday has now gone out the window. So we're going to restart again. No, I'm just kidding. But with the breaking news, you probably all woke up to it, the fact that the automotive tariffs of 25% for imports do still remain in place. There's confusion, there's uncertainty. The trade war with China is escalating, with rates hitting up to 145% tariffs on that. We'll see where that lands at the end of the day. What is clear is that this audience needs to come together to collaborate, to work through this, through these challenging times and uncertainty, for sure. So now, taking a step forward and looking at what we're going to be talking about first thing this morning. In pursuit of perfection, stepping up quality standards. OEMs, the wider network, are under extreme pressure here, as we all well know. And quality needs to play a key role in helping people and the industry remain competitive, remain efficient, and remain profitable. New age vehicles in different dimensions, increasing amounts of software, adding to that complexity, and challenging customer satisfaction levels and overall brand reputation. That's crucial in an increasingly volatile and competitive landscape. So what I've got in store for you now is a fantastic panel with some great variety of experts. So I'd like to get them on stage and start picking their brains about how to step up quality, improve those standards, what some of those best practices are, how to integrate technology from the prevention to the recovery, speeding up that network and that process. So a lot to get through this morning. It's going to be great. So let's get our guests up on stage. My first guest has more than a decade's experience leading EV manufacturers, including Tesla, Rivian, Lucid, with a keen focus on trade compliance, supply chain strategy, logistics IT systems. She joined the General Motors team in 2024, overseeing global operations and network design for domestic and international vehicle logistics, a keen focus on streamlining GM's transition to electric vehicles. I'd like to welcome to the stage my first guest, Amy Paulson, Director of Finished Vehicle Logistics at General Motors. Amy, please come take a seat. Welcome. My next guest has more than 40 years experience in automotive. Please take a seat. Yeah. Across operations, corporate sales, working across automotive plants, ports, rail, as well as ocean global logistics. More than 20 years of that with Wallenius Wilhelmsen, before joining Nationwide Auto Services in 2023, where he's responsible for business development across vehicle processing, quality, and rework services. Please welcome to the stage Gary Davis, Vice President of Business Development at Nationwide Auto Services. Welcome, Gary. Please take a seat. My next guest, with more than 20 years' experience in the automotive sector across sales, dealership management, consulting, government fleet development as well, and the last 6 years in paintless dent removal and catastrophe response sector. He leads operations for the DRS Group, hail damage repair, reworks and containment specialist for OEMs, insurers and dealer groups. Please welcome to the stage Yanni Arvis, CEO of North America at DSR Group. Welcome, Yanni. And last but certainly not least, my next guest is an expert in operations decision-making and in digital transformation. Joined Group Inform, a software specialist in vehicle quality and logistics, more than 8 years ago in Germany, before moving to the US in 2022 to lead the consultancy and development teams of advanced software implementation for customers across the US, Mexico, and Canada. Please welcome to the stage Yannick Hansen, Delivery Manager at Inform. Great. Ladies and gents, thank you so much for joining me. Amy, I'm going to start coming to you to get a little bit of a state of the nation, a little bit of a pulse in terms of, it's been a frenetic 2025 so far. What has that meant for GM in terms of your quality, the performance, and how does that compare to last year?
It's meant that we're constantly on our toes. I was joking with my team at the end of last year. It's like, okay, we delivered the quarter, we delivered a great year, and maybe in January we can take a rest, and that was not the case. So there's internal and external issues that make quality super important at GM. The external being tariffs, geopolitical, things that we can't control, rail car shortages out of Mexico. And then there's the internal, so some things that happen upstream of finished vehicle logistics that mean that we really have to focus, we have to continue to drive focus on quality. And we're doing that very actively, tactically and strategically. So tactically, the team is very much focused, they're very on the ground, very involved, doing site visits, test loads, IT testing, and then strategically we're looking a little bit at our end-to-end quality process, the technology that we're deploying, and whether that's really still a fit or whether we need to make some revisions.
Yeah, excellent. And just in terms of change, really kind of is the new constant. We have to be ever more agile and reactive and predictive in terms of bringing on new partners, new routes, new transport modes to handle new vehicles to, as you mentioned, go with the flow in terms of that disruption. Do the quality standards in place today and the practices you have, are they still fit for purpose, or do they need some revision?
The standards are good. How we get there needs to change. So, coming in from the outside and having the luxury of developing systems and processes from scratch, it's at GM, just over the course of history, it's become fragmented. There are 4 different internal teams involved in our quality adjudication process and how we manage claims. And so Brian's team, Brian and Melissa on my team are taking a new look at how do we reformat that end to end. And it starts with streamlining the stakeholders that are involved in the process. We're also looking at how do we capture end-to-end evidence of damage and make sure that we can trace, making sure that there's traceability. So we're looking at deploying new technology for that, and also getting internal stakeholder alignment. There are a lot of stakeholders involved in quality, in build, in delivery, and all the way to the dealer and the customer experience. And we're aligning with those stakeholders internally, which it's sort of a new endeavor for us to make sure that everybody is aligned to what does quality mean and how are we going to deliver it together, eliminate the conflict, and make the process go faster.
Yeah, great, and plenty in there that we'll unpack, but perhaps just taking one step back and keen to get, Gary, your perspective on that. My question around whether the quality standards, processes, they're ultimately fit for purpose today. They need to change.
Yeah, so I think they're ever-changing would be the way to first answer that. The vehicles are quieter, they're heavier, so there's a direct impact on infrastructure. Is it pavement? Is it load factor? How does that impact the overall network? And then lastly is the charging network in certain areas just hasn't caught up. There's a gas station on every corner. There's not a charging station on every corner yet. So I think once that infrastructure catches up, that's going to play a big role. We had an example of a charging challenge. We were notified about an account that had vehicles in an off-site location, and the state of charge on the batteries was near zero or at zero, and there was no charging capability where the vehicles were at. So working through with their engineers, working through with their quality department, we came up with a solution, and we were able to charge the vehicles remotely, get the state of charge back to be able to get the vehicles on the road.
Excellent. Yanni, you're well-versed working with partners in new environments, in stressful, challenging environments, often reacting to a crisis. What's some of the guidance that you can offer on developing trust and embedding best practices kind of right from the get-go under that pressured environment?
Unfortunately, whenever we're needed on site, it's never, a calm and easy day. It's always like, where are they? What's going on? There's a saying that manufacturers cannot wait for us to get on site, and then they cannot wait for us to leave. So it's always the case. Now, the three keys that you got to find is preparation, process, and communication, right? There's so many things, so many unknowns when we're called on site for an event. Fixing the hail damage in the middle of nowhere, you never know when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen. And most of the time, you don't even know where you're going to be doing the repairs. So you have to have a team that is very flexible, very adaptable, and everybody's trained in order to know how to play their part in the process. It doesn't matter if it's the people acquiring the real estate or setting up the infrastructure, all the way down to the project management team that goes first to handle the claim and set up everything for repairs. So everything has to come together like an orchestra almost, which is very difficult with so many unknown variables. So you have to take everything you can control up front and have it dialed down to, to the last detail possible. That way it's much easier to deal with everything that's unknown. Lastly, communication. And that's always been the hardest part, not just in our industry, in all industries. You have to be very, very transparent with your customer and all the stakeholders about what are their needs, what are their expectations, set up realistic ideas, and at the same time, you need to be able to foresee all the challenges that will definitely come up. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Problem with that is you have to tell everybody what the challenges are going to be, not just in your team, also in your customer. Nobody wants to tell somebody things they don't want to hear. Like, nobody wants to hear, oh, this is not going to work, this is not going to happen. But it's the best policy, in my opinion, because if everybody knows what can happen up front, not only they're expecting it, but we can always be prepared together to deal with it when it happens. So I have found out if you can, follow those three key principles, you should always be able to deliver quality repairs under all circumstances. That has been what we strive for over the years.
Yeah, I'll come to you, and as the technology expert here on this panel, how is that evolving, that landscape? Is it becoming more and more integral, the need for technology, for software to support quality pursuit?
Yes, yes, exactly. And I always love to tell a story about a customer we had in Scandinavia in 2020, where they decided in winter to import their first batch of EV cars. And I don't know if you guys know the Scandinavian winter, but it is extremely cold, and EV batteries usually don't like the cold because it discharges them quicker. And we have learned throughout that time that we have to react quick in order to support our customers. It was kind of the situation that you had, Gary, that you just mentioned, where we had to implement the whole process within a week, that whenever one of the yard workers touches a car, he also has to check in on the charge of the high voltage battery and put it in our system. And as soon as the battery charge surpasses a certain threshold, we created a charging order so that the cars don't run out of energy or don't run out of charge. And this quick implementation basically is now a necessity, not only for our LSP customers, but also for OEMs. When there's a new requirement or a new process that is implemented, we have to be also on the edge of our toes and react quick.
Excellent. Amy, I saw you nodding away there. Maybe because you don't like the cold.
Yeah, but state of charge really resonates with me, and that's a big quality topic that we're paying some attention to in GM. From a finished vehicle logistics perspective, our hands are a little bit tied in terms of enterprise-wide what we can do in terms of state of charge, and so we're trying to get creative with how we manage that, and that's a great plug, I think, for Tom's session later. Next session, guys. But how do we handle state of charge in a very large finished vehicle network with many partners? And right now, we're starting to see some consistency with standards and how we handle that. But that's been really something that Tom and my team has driven over the last year. But that really resonated.
Yeah, and there's something that we are trying to cooperate with some OEMs, is that we get access to the telematics of their systems, so that we hopefully get all of the information that we need for electric vehicles, so that we can avoid batteries run out of charge and can interact earlier in the process to ensure that all of the cars are in a high quality standard.
Yep, no, agree.
Excellent. Well, just sticking with the EV side, perhaps Gary and Yanni, I'll come to you. How else are they sort of impacting you? How are you thinking differently in terms of your investments, your strategies, everything from the vehicle handling to accommodate new types of vehicles and new powertrains?
Yeah, so being at the beginning, the middle, or the end of the supply chain, we don't or aren't working to make any. Let me back up. We are working to make changes within our network and what we're doing with training, working with the OEMs. We like to partner with the OEMs any that we can do. We've done high voltage charging for our technicians, making sure that they're up on the latest technologies, because everybody's vehicle's a bit unique in how they're handling them. The charging port, is it, what is the adapter for the charging? We have to make sure that we're aware of those situations as well.
Yeah. Yanni?
When dealing with EV repairs, yes, there can be some challenges. I understand that. We've all have faced this. It doesn't matter if it's cold weather or anything else that comes up. In our side, repairing damage on an EV does have its own challenges. But in the end of the day, it's all about preparation. One of our biggest strengths is that we don't depend on technicians from the market. We have our own dedicated team that does all the repairs. So the big benefit on this is we constantly know that everybody's up to speed on their training. It's not just for EVs, all vehicles. The requirements for quality repairs change constantly. There's a lot of different methods, a lot of different restrictions. So knowing that your team has the up-to-date training does make a big difference. Also, but when it comes to EV components, there's a lot of preparation that has to be done ahead of time to make sure that everything is done safely, correctly, and up to quality standards. So we always have extra staff available that can deploy whenever we see a bottleneck or a big project or something coming up ahead of time. Now, if you can be prepared and have the proper training, dealing with EVs should not be anything different than dealing with any other vehicles. Yes, they are challenging, but at the same time, Well, there you go. At the same time, if you're ahead of it and you try to practice everything you say, it shouldn't be a bigger deal. I know I make it sound simple and fun, but again, obviously it's not like that. It goes back to what I was saying a second ago. In our business, nothing is constant. You never know where you're going to be. You never know what challenges you're going to have. So prepare for all the things you can, and everything else should be done a lot easier, hopefully.
I think most people here would take simple and fun as an option right now.
That's why we're here, right?
Yeah. Amy, I wanted to come to you and just get a little bit more of a sense of some of the new trends around the quality management that you're experiencing, be that with specific transport modes, different routes, or different types of vehicles.
That's a really loaded question. There's a lot going on at GM in all of those ways. The end of last year, we have a really robust EV portfolio. The end of last year, through last year, we've got the Hummer EV, and at the end of last year, we introduced the Cadillac, the IQ. So these are, especially the IQ is a beautiful but very large, very heavy EV. And that presented some quality challenges pre-launch that we had to really tactically work very closely with our rail partners and our haul-away partners to understand the dynamics of this nearly 9,000-pound vehicle, because its dynamics, the dynamics of physics, is going to react differently on a rail car. It's going to be secured differently on a truck. And so the team did a lot of very tactical work with our rail partners, like what's the best way to chalk this? It takes 6 chalks to secure that vehicle. And then there were some trailer modifications made in order to secure some of these very large EVs, like the Hummer and the IQ. So a lot of great pre-work, pre-launch went into that. But that was all new. We'd never dealt with, our largest vehicle before that was like the Yukon, our large premium SUVs. These new EVs are sort of in a weight class by themselves. So that took a lot of pre-work. And also with these new premium vehicles that sell very quickly, there's a new focus on quick resolution of claims, quick documentation, accurate documentation, and that's really where we're looking at the technology space and making sure that we have that end-to-end, we call it chain of evidence internally, but where we fail in the claims process is usually where there's a gap, where information is missing or a process was dropped, and we're really looking at how do we streamline that using technology, using platforms that guide and document the quality process through the different milestones, so that we don't have that fallout.
Yeah, excellent. Maybe Yannick, I'll come
Yes,
to
and this
you.
is something we are working on, right? So most of the softwares nowadays should have a standardized API endpoint that allows to transmit data to the OEMs, to the LSPs, to everybody basically on the supply chain. And we are seeing more and more that also our customers, not even the OEMs, but also the port processors or yard operators, request more integrations with OEMs, with carriers, whoever. And I think it's a very integral part of stepping up the quality to have, you call it a chain of evidence at GM, that this is available for everybody. And also for the logistics service providers, I think it's crucial that they have a paper trail of what they did to the car, how they moved the car, how they inspect the car, and that they can also maybe defend themselves against a wrong claim. And therefore, integrations is the key nowadays, if you ask me personally.
Yeah, well, Amy, you're talking there about that end-to-end view. So, Gary, Yanni, how are you filling those dark spots, integrating, as Yannick said, into that network for that connected view, utilizing your own data and your own systems?
Yeah, so the application that we use is able to take data in, whether it's date, time, who the user was, what the problem was, take photographs. That data can be shared via a CSV file, an Excel document to be able to send as part of it, because we're not part of the normal supply chain. It's the disrupted supply chain where we're coming into play. So being able to transmit that, so when a vehicle's sitting at a location, you can see it sitting at that location, but you don't really know what's going on with that. It's just sitting there in a dark status, and you know it's at a ramp, as an example. So we're able to fill those gaps, share the data with whoever we happen to be working with, so that they can update their system and then thus update the customer.
Yeah.
to the point you're making, and also what Yannick said, I mean, we had to develop our own system from scratch that can integrate the vehicle and track pretty much the whole process from beginning to end, right? From when the vehicle is signed in and it's first scanned for damage, all the way to the repair process and to the final sign-off from the customer, the QC documentation, and everything else. But the hard thing is what you were saying is like, how do you transmit that data through 90 different vendors, especially when in our case and in Gary's case, we're only there every once in a while. And again, nobody wants us there, it's obvious. Everybody wishes that we didn't exist, or there was no need for us to exist, let me rephrase that. So, it's hard for an OEM or for even a dealer customer or port to be able to integrate with our systems, right? I mean, we would love it to. But at the same time, we have to make our systems so they're easily to integrate with theirs, right? And when that is not possible, yes, we have to come up with creative solutions, like even sending it on an Excel file, for example. The best thing about conferences like this is that it brings us together, that we can come up with different ideas. Me and Yannick did that yesterday. We spent about 2 hours sitting down and saying, okay, you know what? We don't get together very often, but since we're here, let's use this time to come up with a solution, how we can work together, how we can integrate our systems. He gave me a very hard sales pitch, and I think I'm sold. But at the same time, he made sense. It's because if we can connect our system with his, then the OEM doesn't have to worry about it, right? Then our customers don't have to worry about it. And as long as we can both work together, that will serve our customers in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And he told me, or he gave me a very, very good pitch of the whole process that DRS does to cars. And I think the information could be very helpful to OEMs like GM or whoever, with the documentation of the cars that you do when they arrive, when they leave, the images that you take. You can learn from the damages, where they come from, and the more data you have, the better you can make data-driven decisions. And the reports and the data that Yanni has, or DRS has, is really good, and it's on a very detailed and granular level. So it would be, for us as Inform, very helpful to receive that data and be able to provide it not only to the OEMs, but maybe also to the port processors, and saying, hey, those cars came from your facility, and we see those damages on a frequent basis. DRS is telling us that, so maybe there is something in your port process that needs to be adapted and improved. And therefore, I think, as Yanni said, those events where you talk to people that you usually don't talk to, because I would probably never met you in South Dakota, but
nobody wants to come there. Why is that? I'm starting to feel bad about this, just so you guys know.
I'm sorry.
All the conversation for the past hour about, I'm getting sensitive.
Sorry. But yeah, so very, very good conversations that we have. And also with Gary, I had a conversation this morning that was going in the same direction, how we might be able to collaborate in the future and integrate our systems. And if it's just that we have an Excel upload, that we can upload Excel files from their systems as a start, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunity that I sense here at these events.
Yeah, great.
One second. Tell the truth. The first time you heard that I use Excel sheets and Google Sheets to export them to the vendors, how did you feel? Because when I saw you yesterday, you're like, you're the guy that does the Excel, right? I'm like, yeah.
I kind of lost it a bit, but when we talked about it, and he gave me the insights of his business, and that he's usually not the wanted partner because he always steps in when there is an issue, it made sense that a lot of companies don't want to directly integrate with them, because you hope that you just have to work with them once or twice. Of course, reality is different. You have to work with people like Nationwide or DRS quite often, and therefore the Excel sheets are honestly a valid communication tool and a valid reporting tool. And I saw those sheets, and they look pretty good.
I mean, he still makes fun of me, just for the record, okay? That's how he pitched me that we need to integrate. So. But Amy made a good point about the fragmentation, and that's the issue, that even within our organization or yours or everybody else's, yeah, departments, we all want them to talk to each other, but and our departments are nowhere near as large as yours, and it constantly feels like I'm herding cats, right? And what do you mean you don't want to share the information? But that's what we have to, depend on Yannick to keep us, straight and put it together for us. Otherwise, again, nobody wants to see us ever. So.
Well, you're always welcome here, so we like to see you.
I feel welcome once.
Yeah. And I'm sure you're not the only one in the room using Excel spreadsheets.
I don't like him. I just had no other choice. Stop it.
I mean, picking up on the point about fragmentation, it's quite a siloed sector, and Amy, you alluded to this, that even internally, it's quite fragmented, different approaches. Just delve a little bit deeper on that, and what are some of the steps you're taking to improve that transparency and improve that connection across the internal team?
Yeah, we're looking at that internally and with our external partner base that supports our quality and claims process as well. So internally, we've identified 4 different groups that touch some part of the quality, claims, or repair process. And so the quality team at GM is working on streamlining that. They took the people out of the approach and looked at the function and started by streamlining the function, and then made cross-functional team proposals about this is how we can do this better. And actually it was very well received, and so we're working on that project currently, streamlining that. But externally, because of our sheer size, and just as a natural artifact of time, there's multiple players in our quality, our documentation, our claims processing, repairs. So we're taking a fresh look at that too, and seeing where we can streamline the process, because all those players right now play a critical role, and one that admittedly we're not capable of assuming internally currently. And then looking at how do we deploy technology to make the data sort of seamless and visible to all parties in real time, so that we can identify and resolve any sort of disputes as it pertains to the claims process, and then make whoever's at a loss whole faster.
Excellent. And keen to explore some of the beyond the sort of the data, the tools, the technology, and infrastructure in sort of place to improve that and streamline the ownership and responsibility of the claims process. Yannick, I'll come to you first on that.
Yeah, I think there are 2 perspectives, and the first perspective is the chain of evidence, and I will definitely steal that one in the future. I love that. From an OEM perspective, so they want to have visibility. They don't want to have any blind spots in their supply chain of a car. They want to know what happened to the car exactly at what point in time, who did it, and what happened to it. And this is the first perspective. And then we have the second perspective, and these are the logistic service providers, and they also want to have information as soon as possible. When does a car arrive? What ETA do I have? Does it already have a damage that I have to take care of? The same goes for you. I bet the earlier you receive, or Gary, you receive the information from the OEM that you have to do work and what type of work, the better you can prepare and the better your quality of your work will be. And therefore, I think those integrations and those communications between all partners of the supply chain is pivotal for a high quality standard.
Yeah, and Gary as well, just on the equipment side, where are you investing, where are you seeing advancements in quality management tools and inspection kits and processes?
Well, for us, it's all about, I'm going to go back to the same thing, it's preparation and readiness. Whenever the work is assigned, everything has to be in place and ready to go. And that's not just technology, also the human infrastructure to help support it. When we developed our system, one of the main goals was this: how can you track the vehicle from sign-in to sign-off? Now, that sounds, again, pretty easy, sign in and sign off, but the stages in between is where the issue is. You sign in a vehicle, you have to take it apart, you have to repair it, you have to put it back together. There's got to be checkpoints in every level and quality management in every level until you give it back to the customer and have them sign off on it. So following the ownership of the vehicle from the people that do the check-in and look at the vehicle and order parts all the way to the end is very important. Also, our system was designed so all the stuff that has to be done afterwards, after the vehicle leaves our possession, are already documented, and if possible, pre-ordered. Like, we can send a repair order for paint and parts to the next destination of the vehicle, so that way they're ready for it. Communication has always been the issue, but all of us technology can be amazing, right, and has made all of our lives easier, but at the same time, if the human factor behind it is not there, it could be a waste of time. All those tools are great, but unless they're utilized when they're supposed to be, they're an impediment. So you have to have the staff behind it that will follow the process, follow the chain of command, follow the vehicle all the way through to make sure that, yeah, we did a great job preparing a car, amazing. But if nobody knows that we're prepared, then it's pointless. If nobody knows that there is these moldings still needed to get on the car when it gets to the dealer or the next destination, it's also pointless. So we wasted a lot of time inputting data because we didn't use it. I'm sure Gary has plenty of stories, same as I, and a lot of people here, that a transport company shows up in the repair site to pick up vehicles that are not ready yet, and the information is in the system, but nobody actually read it or nobody, figured it out. Or when they did pick up the vehicles that were not supposed to because there was nobody there guarding them, and they're getting delivered to the dealer, and Amy gets a call, it's like, hey, why did I get 15 cars here that have dents on half of the car?
That never happens.
Or there's still overspray on this side and they're missing the moldings. First thing Amy's going to be is like, call me or Gary and say, hey, what are you guys doing? But by having a proper chain of command and a proper following through your system, when it does fall apart, when it will eventually, there's going to be hiccups, at least we can track it back, find where the break-in happens so we can repair it for next time. But also, it's a lot easier for me to tell Amy, hey, these vehicles are just missing these moldings, the rest of it is getting done, somehow they got picked up because I can go back and track it. So we have to be prepared for the things that don't work. That's the negative thing of me, like I'm always looking for how things are going to break, but it's part of our job, obviously. Again, we're only needed when stuff is broken, so I have to be pessimistic.
Yeah, so I would say as an ISO company, you have to document your processes and you have to do what you have documented. That's paramount. I think there's several different areas that Nationwide's making investments, but the biggest one is in our people and our staff and training. So we've started a training academy for our technicians to go through the areas that are standardized in the industry. We're able to complete those tasks with our employees very quickly. But those that are unique, OEM specific, those become more challenging. But the biggest investment right now is in our staff and our people.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? Software can only optimize and help you make decisions to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, to that very day, humans usually fix the cars and are responsible for the quality of the cars and also for the quality of the data. If Yanni's staff is not putting in that they've working on a certain car and that the car is ready, we cannot transmit the data to the OEM, so then there would be a gap too. So it is very, very crucial that the staff is trained properly to, of course, perform the tasks properly, and secondly, also maintain the data properly so that everybody knows what happened to the cars.
Maybe just to echo a little bit what Yanni said about the human factor. I mean, you cannot overstate the importance of the human factor. We can talk about technology, we can talk about data, and data is as important as the car and what happens to it, but it's the human factor that, in our internal experience, okay, something was missed in the system, that's identified by a human, the fix is strategized by a human and then deployed by a human, and that ultimately makes the system better. And it's humans that currently spot the trends in damage and repair, and it's humans that brainstorm and strategize how to make the overall quality process better. So I don't see AI and machine learning taking over those functions anytime soon.
I fully agree that there's always a human factor that is very important to utilize the AI tools, and this is very important, the wording here, it's a tool, it's not like a replacement, and I don't foresee that in the next 5 to 10 years that AI can replace the human factor easily, so we all got our jobs quite safe, I'd say.
That's my biggest fear, though, that we all forget that AI is a tool, right? And ChatGPT is nice and great, everybody loves it, we all use it, but I can tell when my kid cheated on his report because ChatGPT did it, right? It's so obvious, and we face that, I'm sure you have to, and all of you, that you always will get 1 or 2 staff members that think they can, and then they produce a report that was not produced and nobody looked at it, and that's when we have to be careful. That's the biggest signal that, hey, hold on a second, this is a tool, use it to make all of our lives better, but don't make it replace you, because first of all, it's not going to do a good job, and second, don't make it replace you so we can have jobs, obviously.
Yeah. Happy to get the audience involved. So if you have some questions or comments, please, please get involved. Raise your hands, and we'll have a microphone sent round. But just while you think of some things there, perhaps a couple of last questions. We're winding down towards the end of our session now. We sort of talked a little bit about what AI might hold in the future. But kind of beyond the AI hype and on that side, you know, do you foresee sort of new equipment, new technology, or new processes? You know, how else do you sort of see this environment evolving? That's an open question.
I can start. Right now, technology evolves in an incredible speed, and it is very hard to foresee where we are at in 5 years from now. I always like to make an example about AI, and back in the days, we go back 5 years, we had certain AI algorithms at Inform that were human-based AIs, so optimizations that needed the user input in order to function and to work and to be operational. Nowadays, the buzzword is data-driven AI, and it kind of states that we just make decisions purely based on data points and on the data we gather. And I don't think this will be the future too. I think a mixture of something called maybe hybrid AI, where you still have humans that interact and fine-tune the AI with their knowledge, because we all know finished vehicle logistics is a highly complex field where no day looks like the other. And therefore, I think hybrid AI and utilizing still the human knowledge with some form of data-driven decision-making for the standard processes will somewhat be the future and drive quality standards up even higher.
Yeah, I would say that keeping up with technology is impossible. It changes that quickly. So you have to establish a baseline, what your baseline needs to be. And I think it's a two-way path that's merging together. It's you're investing in your people and you're investing in your technology, and it's merging together. You can't depend solely on one or the other.
And Amy, just in terms of your expectations and hopes for partners and key stakeholders within that, are you looking for those bringing innovation in terms of equipment, scanning technologies, and streamlining those processes?
Funny you should ask, because we are looking at a few of those things. I think maybe the base statement is that we are looking for partners to bring ideas to us. How can we be better? How can we make this process better? And to that end, we are looking at some scanning technology, moving from the solely human-based visual inspection of a vehicle at different milestones, and where can we effectively deploy a scanning technology, whether that's something that looks like a big booth, or whether that's something that's more of a post. Where do those things belong in the value chain? Because not every location is suited for every technology. But, and then some of those actually deploy AI then. It's like, okay, it finds a defect, and based on a certain percentage or statistics, it understands that that defect is probably caused by something, and it causes then that equipment and that software to go look for something else. So we're looking at some of those solutions as part of that end-to-end chain of evidence to make the documentation just very robust.
You know, man, this doesn't like me. Talking about scanners is a very, very fun subject, because I'm sure everybody here spent hours looking at demos of scanners and of the next best thing and everything that's great about them. I was almost jaded by scanners for a while, to be honest with you, because by the time you're like, okay, I'm in, it takes 10 days to deploy, 3 days to set up, then 18 hours to calibrate, and 60% accuracy, and then the data doesn't even transmit back to anybody. We did end up with a very good scanner system that we're actually very happy with. The reason we like it is it takes one person to transport it, it takes one person to set it up in 30 minutes, and it's calibrated in 15 seconds. And it's a great product. At the same time, though, being able to take that technology, ours constantly evolves because it does use AI. For example, at some point we had an issue scanning properly a certain size vehicle on a certain panel, right? Well, having a partner that develops a technology that's constantly wants to make it better was great, because instead of working around that panel and just, they fix it, they fix the software, and every time we use them, they become better. Now, where I found the best use for scanners, besides making it quicker to follow the claim and give you documentation of the damage, is we use them as a QC tool. That's not what they're designed for, but doesn't matter if they're designed for that. That's a very good use. That way, when we're done fixing the vehicle, before it goes to the quality control manager, we run it through the scanner. Then the quality control manager has a 3D scan of the vehicle from afterwards, tells them where to pay attention. If you're having to look at 150 cars in one day to make sure that there's no dents or imperfections missed, at some point, your eye just sees straight panel, right? So if you have a pretty much a report that tells you, hey, there's potentially something there, you pay attention to it, and it makes it a lot easier to catch those things that are defected. That data, on the other hand, when we're done with a project, goes back, and we can see patterns that, hey, somehow either they're very difficult to fix something in that corner, or the scanner doesn't see the clean panel as clean. So either we have to update the scanner, or we have to update our repair process. That helps the manufacturer knowing that, it's very hard to fix something in this quarter panel. In the next design, what can we update to make it easier, if that's the case? The thing that I like about them the most goes back to the chain of ownership earlier. When a vehicle is delivered by us to the manufacturer and it's signed off, it comes together with a clean scanner that tells you, this is what it looked like before, this is what it looks like now. So when the vehicle gets to the end destination and the dealer's like, man, you brought me cars that are not fixed yet, well, we can look and see all the process, okay, yes or no, or hey, the rail provider did this. And that's the integration we were talking about yesterday, taking all that data from the pre-scans too, because you can see where if the damage happens a lot more in one specific part of the vehicle, I mean, hail is hail, obviously, but if this part gets damaged a lot more and you see the pattern, then that's data that you can utilize on the next design. But I like the fact that not only makes me look good in the end, because, oh, look at those clean vehicles, but nobody can come back and say, what did we miss? Or if we did miss it, it's pretty clear that where we made the mistake, because let's face it, if anybody tells you they are perfect and never have an issue, that's the guy you want to stay away from. But by having that data, I can see where we need to improve. So yes, it's a useful tool, and as long as they're useful. If you have those big box things that you cannot use and the results are horrible, it's a paperweight.
Yeah.
I have some of those.
I mean, the current landscape that we're sort of facing here, different OEMs are taking different strategies, either slowing down production, in some cases stopping production. There's pull forwards. This may have a key impact on inventory levels, making speed to market, turnaround time for rework, for repair, more crucial. Gary, how are you balancing that need for speed whilst maintaining that sort of service level?
Yeah, so first and foremost, you don't compromise quality just to deliver a vehicle. So you have to make sure that you're delivering a quality product. If not, it's not going to work. Quality is the standard to complete a process, and it needs to be at that acceptable level or higher, or you don't ship the vehicle.
I think speed is not what makes me nervous. It's when we slow down that I become very nervous. So whether there's a pull forward in store, or a store in place and stop ship, or a quality or software hold, when those vehicles stop moving, bad things happen to them. And that's where you see a lot more quality fallout than you do for vehicles that move through the normal chain of events. There's more touches, they're moved around to make space for other vehicles, there's rework performed. And so that's a hot button focus area for us as we are talking to our teams internally and realigning on the quality function and deploying scanners to see how something was turned over to us from the plant and making sure it stays in that condition until it's left our hands and moves on to the next milestone. But it's when you slow that process down that bad things happen.
Interesting point. So perhaps a final kind of question for me is, and Amy, I'll start with you, just for a final thought. We're talking about the pursuit of perfection. So in 2025, in these volatile, unknown, unpredictable times, what are your quality-related goals ultimately for this year and next?
Oh gosh, I think the reflection we just made on speeding up versus slowing down. So the volatility and the constantly changing geopolitical picture tempts the OEM, I think, to speed up or slow down, sometimes do the two things simultaneously, depending on market. All of those raise red flags for quality and require a renewed focus on quality through the process. Whether you're holding in a yard somewhere and things are going to be, they're going to be moved, there's going to be multiple touches, or you're pulling forward but you have restricted logistics capacity, so you're using modes and carriers that you don't normally use that are unfamiliar with the product. That can also lead to a higher rate of IPTV. So as we close out 25, I think we're looking at how can we see what's going to come at us and hit us from a quality perspective, and how can we get ahead of it? I think the team's got some really great ideas on how to do that. But we are a little bit in a reactive posture because you just don't know what's going to happen next. So I think our goal of 25 is to stay ahead of it, continue to work on our end-to-end evidentiary goal, and rewrite the process internally so that all parties involved are in a line. And if we meet those three things by the end of the year, I think we will have done well.
Yeah, excellent. We've covered a lot of ground here, so perhaps just a final thought from the rest of the panel in terms of the key takeaways from this discussion today for our audience.
I think my key takeaway is basically that integration and that good overview of what happens to the supply chain is crucial, that you make the next step in terms of quality. And I think, as you said, the chain of evidence will be for OEMs the key, and for logistic service providers, I think it's crucial that you document your process as well as possible, and also are open to share your data with your partners so that everybody has a full visibility of what happens. And if we have all data together, you can do beautiful things with data, and I'm excited to see if this happens.
Excellent. Yanni?
The one thing that I want to be the main takeaway from the last conversation, last subject about speed and quality and how not to sacrifice anything is, in the end of the day, what I have always found out, and this is a personal finding, is if you slow down in the beginning and take your time to set everything up, that ensures that you'll get everything done right the first time. Because having to rework or restructure or reset is double the time. I've seen it quite a few times that projects, and you got to remember that our projects are quick, crisis, there's 10,000 cars, we got to figure it out. So it's very easy for a provider to just show up with a lot of people trying to rush it through and get it done. But quite often when not everything is set up, not when everybody knows what they're supposed to do, when the process and the data is not recorded, because we can scan the cars later or we can do this later, that makes a projects fall apart very easily. They create bottlenecks, and the slowdowns that happen then are immense. And to what Amy was saying, then vehicles are standing there half fixed, or then waiting for parts, more likely for them to get redamaged, or when they get moved out of the way to get hit. So every time you rush in without a lot of preparation, it's hard. So if you slow down in the beginning, set up your process correctly, you'll be able to fix everything right and fix it the first time. And there's no reason after that you cannot deliver quality repairs under any environment and any circumstances. So that's, without having to sacrifice any time. That's always been our take. And it became that take after years of doing it and observing others doing it.
Yeah, I would say that first off, you can be a competitor, but you can also be a partner with somebody at a certain juncture. So, Yannick and I had some conversations, around how could we potentially work together as an example. So I think that's something that we can learn from each other. There's not one size that fits all as a best practice, and we should always be looking for continuous improvement as we go through, and that's something we're doing. I'll do a shout out to Wyatt in our group there with Nationwide. He often says you have to slow down to speed up. And exactly what you're talking about is the fact that, you need to slow down, make sure you've got a good process, it's sustainable, it's repeatable, and then you can speed up. If you try and do it in reverse, you end up just trying to contain problems at that point.
Excellent.
I do have that trademark, by the way, so I will expect some royalties for the record.
He may be older than you, so he may have the trademark.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Some good thoughts there to finish and close out our perfect panel. So, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for Gary, Yannick, and Amy.